It's very important for us to be reminded of this imperative of fidelity, because many people want reform, but not many people are willing to suffer the consequence of fidelity in bringing reform. So many people are in the process of desiring reform, they become bitter and they become unfaithful.
Yeah.
So this is something that requires us to be in community, to encourage one another all the time, to be faithful and to catch one another at times when we may be tempted to leave, throw in the towel and leave because of bitterness, because of what we have to suffer. We perceive that we suffer at the hands of the church, and so we want to leave. In community, we have to keep one another within that fold so that we remain faithful to the life of the church. And the church will improve. The church will be much better because of our presence. I'm not saying that we are saints. I'm very far from being a saint. People don't know because they don't live with me. Those who live with me will know I'm far from being a saint. But we are instrumental for one another's sainthood. And when we stay in the church, we will be better. The church also will become better. And it's important for us to keep being reminded of that. We will never be part of the majority. People who desire reform in the church will never be part of the majority. And this is a trait of humanity. That's why in the 1930s, there was this writer called Arnold Toynbee, if I'm not mistaken. Arnold Toynbee, he came up with this term called the creative minority. He was talking in terms of civilizations. Civilizations, they rise and fall, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes a civilization that is on the verge of collapsing gets saved. It's not the majority of the people in that civilization that saves that civilization. In fact, the majority is the one that causes the downfall of that civilization. But who saves that civilization? It's always a creative minority. People in that civilization, a very small population that retains the virtues of that culture, the virtues and the values of that civilization when that civilization itself has lost it. And because they want to retain the virtue of that civilization, right, they find it very difficult to survive there because that civilization itself will persecute them. They find themselves at odds with the new mindset of that civilization, see. But they will find ways to navigate themselves within that creatively while still being faithful to those virtues and values. They are the ones who end up saving that civilization. They are what Arnold Toynbee calls the creative minority. The reason that I bring this up is because in many of his writings and speeches, Pope Benedict XVI employed the same term. He says the church, of course, he was talking very much about the church in Europe,
Yeah.
The
crisis.
The crisis in
Yeah.
Europe. But he also speaks about the creative minority.
Yes, I know.
He says that church will be a much smaller church.
Yeah.
And
She'll lose everything.
she will lose everything,
Yeah.
all her edifices, all her grandeur.
Yeah, will be stripped.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's that small creative minority
Yeah.
that will ensure the sustenance, the life of the church keeps going. These are real disciples. So, who will save the church after the Second Vatican Council from all these excesses that come from misunderstandings or misdefinitions of the council? The creative minority. They will steer the church in the right direction that will correspond with the mind of the church fathers in the Second Vatican Council. It will take a long time, and this creative minority will have to suffer for it.
Yeah.
This is not a prophecy. It's just a reality of how the church has been in the last 2,000 years, how human civilization has been. And history teaches us how things have to go. So if we have to find ourselves being part of the minority, that's our calling, that's our vocation, whether it's by being a bishop, a priest, a deacon, a religious, a lay person, being a part of this creative minority and being faithful to it, and at times having to suffer for it, not in a spirit of self-righteousness, but with of course, with a lot of self-critique as well, because a lot of the injuries that are in the church were also inflicted by us. We are also part of the sinful nature of the church, you know. So as we try to bring reform into the church, we also have to self-critique and see what areas of our lives also need reform. That's why a reformer must always act in community. We must always be in a community. A person who fancies himself as a reformer, a lone reformer, will fail.